there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world.
Ајде, мајката!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
3, 2, 1. Quote, can the Prespa Accord be changed or annulled, unquote. That's the headline in an article in the Greek newspaper Katamarini, and our answer is hell yeah! Yes, we know the internationals who desperately believe, and want you to believe, in UFOs, utopia, and universal basic income will all say no. All international agreements cannot be changed at any time ever. Or, as we like to joke about the Germans, nein, this is impossible! The brouhaha over Macedonian President Siljanovska Davkova not saying the N-word continues, though mostly from just the Greeks and Bulgarians right now. Meanwhile, the world moves on, though not toward a better place, but that's not for this podcast. Back in Macedonia, we find Ali Ahmeti and his Dewey party in a panic about being left out of the new government, a strong VMRO lineup with a realistic ethnic Albanian representation in that new government, some high-profile arrests on the left, and more. We'll discuss all of this and more on this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin Šelemanov in Skopje, in partially liberated Macedonia, soon to be fully liberated.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
We are recording this on Friday, May 24. This is episode 175. This is St. Cyril and Methodius Day. Yes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's 24th, yeah.
It's 24th of May, so St. Cyril, the Methodius Day. And for the first time, I'm a bit daft and slow. I'm getting old. I realized that 24th of May, this is going to be an easy one for me to remember, is St. Cyril and Methodius Day. The 25th of May is my anniversary of the first time I ever set foot in Macedonia, on May 25. In this case, it was in 1996, so 28 years ago tomorrow, I celebrate 28 years with Macedonia. So I'm thinking, Svetin, of my 30th anniversary already, and I'm definitely going to have to be in Macedonia for that.
Yeah.
So,
it was also celebrated as Tito's birthday, right?
The 25th or the 24th?
Yeah, the 25th. The
25th, oh!
The Day of Youth, it was when people would do like parades and honor Tito with this communist style stuff.
Yeah, and that's the day that everybody hikes up Tito Vrh?
Not me though, but yeah.
Yes, okay. I remember doing that early on when I first got there. It must have been 97 probably. 97, 98, hiking up Tito Vrh. So I guess it was May 25, and I didn't put the two things together yet, but anyway.
Yeah,
so
I don't not hike it out of political protest. I just can't hike it. So yeah.
I understand. Yeah. Well, that's one of my things is hiking. So, as you know. Anyway, so all right, May 24, episode 175. We got a new president. We're getting a new government. It's in formation. Let's talk about that first. Where are we in that? I wanted to ask you, because I did see, I scour the news, in the morning, my morning, which I'm 9 hours behind you, but, so there's I think this is an ethnic Albanian website that says that VLEN, the ethnic Albanian coalition that's going to join with VMRO, is getting both the Speaker of Parliament and the first Deputy Prime Minister. Is that correct? Or has it been announced?
Kinda. So so the talk is that they will get the speakership.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They will get the Deputy Prime Minister for European Union Affairs, who would maybe have the role of first Deputy Prime Minister among the other Deputy Prime Ministers, to be determined. We had this arrangement now when Talat Jafiri became Prime Minister. SDSM had Bojan Maričić appointed, who was Deputy Prime Minister for EU Affairs. He was named the first Deputy Prime Minister, who would have like a more established role, like an ethnic balancer person, would automatically replace take the place of the prime minister when he's absent to rule convene the government.
Right.
Under Ahmeti and Grubi, this was understood that Grubi has veto power over decisions and Ahmeti has veto power over Kovacevski's decisions. I very much doubt that whoever the Albanians name as their most important, as their deputy prime minister would have this power. They would have, we usually had like, so Artan Grubi was Minister for Political System and Deputy Prime Minister. He had a whole ministry, a whole department with thousands of employees in a large building, which he seized from the anti-corruption agency as his office essentially. There is now talk that this ministry will no longer be the Albanian ministry, but will actually be the ministry for other smaller ethnic groups. It will be completely revamped, and I guess because they want to fire all the people that Artan Grubi had stacked in there, so that there will no longer be an Albanian ministry in the government. But I guess that the deputy prime minister, who is Albanian, will be probably the one for the EU affairs, will be like more important than whoever else Mickoski appoints as deputy prime minister.
So what's going on with Znam? We keep reading and hearing about what's going on with the VLEN, the ethnic Albanian coalition, and VMRO, but I haven't read much about Znam. They're going to be a part of the government, correct?
Not sure anymore. Like the collapse of SDSM was such that it actually makes more sense for them to, as a big faction in SDSM, try to take over the party rather than discredit themselves by joining the government. VMRO already bought, they wanted to have 61 before they start negotiating with the Albanians, and they were counting on Znam, but they already got that. They don't say through whom, but Mickoski said that he already has bought several votes. I think he needed only 3, and there is talk about the Liberal Democratic Party, the NSDP party in SDSM's coalition, which Kovacevski rudely insulted NSDP during the campaign as a minor faction,
Right.
And he was telling Znam, you will end up like NSDP if you keep this up, like this small nothing of a party. But they have 2 votes in parliament, and now they're offended. So that was a bad move. There are some ethnic minority groups in the Albanian coalition who may go to VLEN, but they may actually go to VMRO. So he may reach this number through them. So at this point, they're not very super anxious to, or it doesn't look like it's so necessary for VMRO to bring Znam in the coalition as well.
Okay, interesting. Well, what's the timeline? So I see the parliament is going to, today's a holiday in Macedonia. Actually, Monday's a holiday here, Memorial Day, but that doesn't have anything to do with Macedonian politics. But parliament's going to reconvene next week, I believe, is what I read, on Tuesday, the 28th.
At 28th, the parliament convenes. It's the inaugural session. They should elect a speaker. By then, it should be clear whether some of the VLEN parties has gotten the speakership. It's mentioned this Afrim Gashi guy, one of the smaller Albanian parties, that he could be the speaker. And if this happens, so VMRO now wants to also hugely redraw the government. They want to abolish ministries. They want to create a few new ministries. One for demographics. You would be interested to hear this. One for energy and mining. One for sports. Possibly even tourism, or do the culture ministry make it into the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. So a lot of changes are planned, and they would abolish the labor and welfare ministry in the process of making the demographics ministry. So, but for this they would need 80 or 81 votes, depending on how you count it. So we should know by then whether they have the votes to also redraw the government, and then it would be a matter of weeks before we go to Siljanovska. She needs to appoint Mickoski as Prime Minister designate. He needs to formally negotiate with everybody and then put the government to a vote.
So we're actually looking at mid to late June, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
There is the NATO conference in Washington on the 8th of July, I think.
Oh, okay.
By then we should have like fully functioning government.
Okay. Interesting. That's going to be that. Okay, that's a good transition then. If there's is this the annual NATO confab where they all get together? Or,
Yeah, I think
don't
so.
even know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting, and let's say there's a new government by then. Obviously, the representative out of whoever goes, the foreign minister, I would assume, probably. Maybe
I think
prime minister.
the prime minister should go to this
Sorry,
one. The prime minister.
the prime minister. Okay. It could be the president, prime minister, or foreign minister. Either way, I'm guessing the foreign minister is going to go to VMRO in the new government.
They're getting everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a while, the SDSM guys were saying, hey, look, they're giving the speakership, they're going to give like a bunch of ministries, what's this? We thought we're making a government without Albanians. And then somebody leaks the actual list of, the initial plans. And the Albanians, of the important ministries, they're getting healthcare and nothing else. They get stuff like culture, like local administration, environment, like these B-list ministries. The speakership, they would get the economy ministry, but before that, the mining and energy would be scooped out of this ministry, so the important stuff is out. They would get the welfare stuff from the labor and welfare would go to the demographics ministry. They would get the labor part of labor and welfare, but still very, very meager. Each of the four parties in Valen would get like one ministry, and the Alliance of Albanians, like more important, would get like the speaker, not the speakership. They would actually get the healthcare ministry, which is kind of important, and then maybe another ministry or something like that.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see how that. We'll keep following that, see how that shakes up. But to my point a moment ago, you mentioned the NATO conference and confab in Washington D.C. in July. So government was formed by then. Somebody goes. They're going to be whoever it is going to be sitting behind a sign that uses the N word, of course. And that brings us up to the way we started here with the whole issue of the brouhaha, as I call it, over the so-called Prespa agreement.
Yeah.
It's the Greeks that are crying the loudest. The Bulgarians are right behind them in terms of this. We've seen some pushback from the U.S. Embassy, the State Department, I think, NATO, etc. EU, of course. But of course, in all this, we have the EU elections as well. But that's first. That's June 6th or 9, I believe. So Herr Weber, Manfred Weber, the leader of the EPP, complained on Twitter yesterday, on X, sorry, about this whole thing. Anyway, that's going to continue, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I saw that Nikos Kotzias, the former foreign minister of Greece and the one who negotiated, quote unquote, the so-called Prespa agreement with his counterpart, Nikolai Dimitrov, had an article in Katamanini why the Prespa agreement is important. But he used a lot of his article. I thought this was interesting to criticize the government of Mitsotakis, and he also raised. This was interesting too. He also raised the threat of, quote, Greater Albania and Greater Bulgaria. He basically said that those are a constant threat to Macedonia and partitioning of Macedonia, which obviously he's got an agenda that he's writing for. And if a NATO state were to be split up between two other NATO states, then Vladimir Putin would be consuming the best caviar and champagne ever created, because that would mean the end of NATO. So that is not going to happen. It just isn't. I mean,
well, the Greeks want us to continue to exist without identity, without
right.
self-worth, but like a buffer zone between these two countries, Albania and Bulgaria, blocking their enlargement.
And the Bulgarians want you to exist as a little Bulgaria. Now, and of course, Kotzias says in this article, as do others in various other columns and articles and podcasts, etc. I saw another podcast. I think the podcast is The Irrelevant Greek, where they're talking about it, and I got to listen to that today. But they're all saying, actually, it's not The Irrelevant Greek. It's something else, but I couldn't think of the name. They're all saying basically the same thing, that this means that Macedonia's EU prospects are stalled. But they've been stalled since 2005, when Macedonia became a candidate for EU membership. They have not progressed because of Greece and because of Bulgaria, because of the French veto, etc. And it just isn't, so what? And of course, everybody keeps saying there is no alternative. I saw Gabriel Escobar from the State Department, basically said the same thing the other day. He said they, meaning Macedonia, has got to realize there are no alternatives. Again, I've said this ad nauseum. Anybody who says there's no alternatives is saying that to shut down debate, because they want you to just shut up and do what you're told. And this is the same thing. So Macedonia is not going to get into the EU at all because the EU process is frozen.
Yeah. The treaties has been violated, the Prespa Treaty, in that we did not get what was promised to us, which is EU enlargement, and anything else is, the Greeks can just sit around and say, play dumb that the treaty is being violated when their main concession, okay, well, technically we're not blocking the country, somebody else is, so we are not at fault. But we did not get what was promised, and
exactly.
In a spectacular fashion, and you cannot expect us to abide by this treaty any longer. It's ridiculous. 500 plus thousand people voted for this. They were very clear what's happening. We need to send a message, and Siljanovska did. There was no chance that she would be using the imposed name during the inauguration or in her speech, which was devoid of any foreign policy messaging. It was not even scripted. She just did a stump speech on women's rights, as the first woman president. And then when the inaugural moment came, the speaker, who is from SDSM, he kept using, giving the oath of office as Britain, under the imposed name, saying North Macedonia, and she would just say Macedonia, not even Republic of. Yeah, and it's obviously...
Yeah.
And nobody was using this during the campaign either. I mean...
that's... Yeah, and switching... Iran Fuere, however you pronounce his first name.
We use Ervan, but I'm not sure how.
Anyway, the Irishmen, and of course Ireland doesn't hold a high... I'm not very fond of Ireland these days because they recognize Palestine, so-called. He had an interesting article in Balkan Insight.
Becoming Palestine also.
What's that?
They're becoming Palestine.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. In which he really criticized the EU for its quote-unquote failures, he wrote, and saying that it has a double standard. Of course, now that he's out of the EU, he can talk about these things. When he was in the EU was paying his salary, so he couldn't. But I'm glad that he's acknowledging this, and he's talking about all the failures within the EU, including the French veto, including Bulgaria's obstinance, etc. And actually, dare I say, he has a little understanding for Macedonia and Macedonians in this, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah.
His other point. Nobody refers to the country as the Hellenic Republic of Greece. It's just Greece, same thing. So
some of our guys were trying to say, okay, it's legally, it's the oath of office was archived under the imposed name as written, not as spoken. That, but you still have the freedom of speech to use, you can be compelled to say a word you disagree with, like the basic human right. But, this is all legalistic.
Exactly.
Preparing for maybe a challenge in front of the court in The Hague. The realities are political. The EU did not deliver. The US did not deliver on this thing. They allowed Bulgaria to start blocking us. Greece was supposed to talk to Bulgaria if it cared so much about this treaty. The EU was supposed to talk to them. France was not supposed to block us. I mean, all of these things went wrong, went awry, and you can't expect us after this election to abide by the treaty. On the other hand, SDSM officials were also using just Macedonia during the campaign. Artan Grubi had an interview where he said, talking about his family, he said he named his children Juno and Hera, the Roman and the Greek goddess, and that his son, he named him Epirus after the province in Greece, major territorial claims on Greece and on Greek history. And Greece just ignored it, okay, this is childish about Tartan, but government officials, ministers were using just Macedonia during the entire campaign and nobody protested. But now they decided that, they will react when VMRO does the same at a time when they have European election campaign and also Bulgaria has general election and European election campaigns. Mitsotakis was campaigning in North Greece or in Aegean Macedonia, and when this happened, and then for a couple of days we were under the, is Siljanovska coordinating this with Mickoski? Is she going on her own? She had all of these congratulatory notes from Macron, from Zelensky, from the U.S. embassy here, which is very strange for us to see. People congratulating to VMRO officials, while at the same time not to VMRO as the party. Mickoski got congratulations from Orban, from Vucic, but not from these guys. So, it was a little bit like, okay, will they try to cause a split between VMRO immediately after the elections? And then after this event, they started dumping on Siljanovska. Mickoski came to her defense a couple of days later. He said that this will be the policy of the government as well, not just of the president, that we have to be wise, not to provoke needlessly. So at the moment, Siljanovska is mostly using our country, would insert Macedonian somewhere like Macedonian sportsman, Macedonian cultural heritage, stuff like that. Not use the name of the country. She scrubbed the name of the country from the website. Her team did. So we are, and then Mickoski said, listen, okay, if you think that all of this new policy is in violation of PRESPA, we can go to The Hague and you can put us on trial there and we'll see what The Hague says.
Well, and actually that you bring up a good point because that is in the Kotsias article. Let me see if I can find it. Probably can't. But, he said Macedonia, took recourse to the International Court of Justice in The Hague to Greece's detriment. He doesn't actually say that Greece lost the case. And to be honest, I haven't read it thoroughly and I'm not a lawyer, but the bottom line is that, Greece violated the old 1995 interim accord by vetoing Macedonia's accession to NATO in 2008 in Bucharest. But the Greek position is that there was no veto. It's just that they did not give their assent. It's a veto in all but the literal name. We all know this. We can play these games. They want to play these games. Great, we'll play these games. So, yes, to Ms. Koski's point, nobody likes it. They can take Macedonia to the ICJ, and we'll go from there. And this is going to take a very, very long time. In the meantime, in the real world, as I said, people are more interested, Macedonians certainly, and I think Greeks are more interested in what is the government going to do in terms of the economy. That's always the bottom line anywhere and everywhere, in just about every society. So let's see the first 100 days, and the government hasn't even formed yet, so we can't even start with day one yet. What is the government going to do in terms of the economy to better people's lives and restore the rule of law and order and root out corruption and use the summer to prepare for a excellent start to the school year on September 1st. All of these things. This is what people care about. This is one of the big reasons why this government was elected, because Citizen and Dewey had failed on every level. So
just basic competence. I mean, Mickoski announced that he will quickly sign a loan with a European country, government to government, €1 billion loan, which on like favorable, decent interest rate to reprogram what the government had messed up so far. He's essentially thinking the Bechtel deal. So he's saying we cannot break it. We will try to renegotiate it because the price is enormous, the terms are crazy, and but one of the elements here is that it's not paid for by the EU because it was a exclusive deal with an American company. Bechtel or the US government did not provide us with a favorable loan from an American bank either. So we are paying for this from our credit card with high interest rate. And, he would sign a loan with a EU country, most likely Hungary. I can't imagine who else would be involved here. And so this would mean this would free up some money instead of crazy interest payments on Bechtel that we could, focus on. He promised a significant pension increase, probably increase it in exchange for, ending the automatic increases, which is DSM put into place. So this is something he would have to do. He announced a major energy investment. So we had one Greek investment collapse, the plan for the Greeks to invest in a large hydro plant. Then they're still talking about a large gas plant because Greece is becoming trying to become the gas hub for the region with LNG gas brought God knows where from and God knows for what price instead of the Russian gas we're using. So as part of this, they were going to build a gas plant to heat Skopje and produce electricity. Unlikely this will happen either now under these conditions with Greece. So Mickoski said it will be a large renewable energy deal, probably solar. And then just basic competence on resuming construction on the Kicha-Ohrid highway and keeping Bechtel to the task that they start working on their highways, connecting the almost built Kumanovo-Kriva Palanka expressway to the existing, it's almost built but not connected to the network. So basic competence stuff that would quickly show some that there is a new administration in charge, and it's like the old VMRO, which actually gets stuff done relatively quickly and competently. So this is what we'll be up to, but it will probably be overshadowed by foreign policy, with Greece even leaking to our press that they may close the border, or trade embargo possibly. Bulgaria refusing to meet. So we had Siljanovska on her first international visit. Her first domestic agenda was to go to a concert by the Bulgarian state opera. So this was a gesture aimed to Bulgaria. Her first visit was to Rome for the honoring of Saint Cyril and Methodius. And Rumen Radov was there, but apparently he refused to meet her. They didn't. Sometimes we would even try to have a joint celebration of the saints, and this time not even a meeting of the presidents, which is, pretty ugly move on their part. I'm assuming that she was trying to meet him because she has nothing to lose while he is in campaign mode. So probably he was either going to meet her and then be visibly rude to her in front of the cameras to score political points, or maybe not meet her at all. And this is what's happening now. So, we'll be doing interesting stuff economically, but it will likely be overshadowed by the foreign policy agenda. But we can then overshadow this by the long delayed and much anticipated collapse of DUI, which is going to be one of the first agendas, like criminal investigations and the like.
Yeah, is now Citizen has and Dimitar Kovachevsky is resigning, and they're doing a leadership search. DUI is not, or at least they haven't said anything about that, correct?
No, Ahmeti wants to stay on. Artan Grubic has reportedly left the country. I mean, they can flee to Albania or Kosovo as investigations get too close. They still insist, this is very amusing, they insist they need to be part of the government because they won more votes than Vlen. They're calling Vlen the illegitimate Albanians, illegitimate representatives. It's very funny.
Take a page from our book, you know. You're the illegitimate president. No, you're the illegitimate president. So
yeah, you ain't black. Is the you ain't Albanian.
If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So
it's beautiful. They're crying on television. They're sending their officials to say, but this is not fair. We have to be in the government. We want more votes. You know, we'll go to the internationals. We'll tell them. So Vlen took a seat from them. So Vlen asked for a revote in the Tetovo region, and you know, there is all these irregularities in any polling station, so they chose one which had higher level of irregularities, but also could end up more favorable to them. And they did a revote. A bunch of immigrants came, you know, supporting Vlen who didn't vote in the first round, and this increased the Vlen numbers by enough to kick out one member of parliament from Minduh Tači's party, elected on the dual list, who may have ended up with Vlen anyway, and in exchange they won one seat. So now it's Dui has 18, SDSM also has 18, so they're tied as the second largest party in the country. There will be a lot of debate who will get to appoint the head of the State Electoral Commission, which goes to the second largest party in parliament.
We're the opposition. No, we're the opposition. So
it's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
But then Dui will definitely lose a bunch of seats from the ethnic minorities. From Minduh Tači will probably leave. They have 4 seats in parliament on the Ziadin Sela Alliance of Albanians party. So they're practically pure Dui. They're down to 9 or 10 seats. SDSM has 18. They will also probably lose like 4. They would probably go down to 13, 14 seats, with opportunists trying to join either VMRO or Vlen. And Dui is saying we do not recognize the outcome of this repeated vote in this village near Tetovo. So, you know, they're really like crying foul, which is much, you know, they were the prime abusers of the political system for so long. They violated the deal with VMRO that the biggest Macedonian party needs to join the biggest Albanian party in government, needs to invite the biggest Albanian party. They organized repeated voting against VMRO in 2016 after the elections, trying to steal seats from VMRO. So everything they've been doing is now coming back to haunt them.
Right.
So it's super fun.
Good. Well, yeah, and the new government can't form soon enough to get rid of Bujar Osmani as the foreign minister, which he is currently still. Okay. Well, that's good. Let's leave it at that. That's a good wrap. Maybe as there's more movement on this, we can revisit the formation of the government as well as this brouhaha over the N-word. Again, that's mostly coming from Greece and Bulgaria. It seems like everybody else is just saying, okay, we know this is going to happen. It's going to get sorted out at some point. We're still going to use the N-word, even if you don't. But you know, you got a country to run, and a government to form, an economy to heal, etc. So, which is the correct response, I think. So, and like you said, you know, Bulgarians have elections coming up. The EU has elections, so they're all kind of preoccupied with, you know, more important things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. That's a good wrap. Yeah, like I said, this is the kind of the end of May. Maybe we'll do another one of these in the first part of June or so, and go from there.
Yeah, we can start making them shorter, but more frequent as things are developing pretty quickly.
Indeed.
Now.
Okay. That's a wrap then. Great talking to you and catching up.
Yeah, you too, Betty. Take care.
Oh.